Today I'm going to share with you exactly what you can do to prevent a bad trip during ayahuasca or to recover from one if you had it. My name is Canon and I've spent well over a decade studying different forms of mysticism. I lived with ayahuasca shamans in Colombia, have drunk ayahuasca well over 100 times, guided thousands of people through their ceremonies, and have had at least 10 or 20 very difficult trips myself. So I'm going to be sharing with you everything that I wish the shamans and the facilitators had told me that would have saved me a lot of mental agony, a lot of trauma at some points, and a lot of stress around working with this sacred medicine. So let's start. First, what is a bad trip? Let's start with that. Let me ask you this question. What is a bad experience in your life? And I want you to really inquire about this, because if you're willing to look deep within at that which you call bad, I bet that you're going to find some things that are painful that you're still struggling with. But if you look far back enough, you will see that there were parts of who you are today that you really celebrate, that you love, that are the result of something bad that happened. For example, you probably had a breakup where your heart was broken, but as a result of that, you learned to love yourself a bit more. Maybe you learned to have boundaries. Maybe you moved to another place and started a better life. Maybe you got in shape. Maybe you built a business. Perhaps you faced a health complication that shook you awake and reminded you of what matters. Not your business, not your money, but actually your body, your connections, your family. There's so many people that are faced with cancer, with the death of a loved one, with the ending of a relationship, and sometimes even with bankruptcy. And after a few years, not in the moment, they report to those moments of trial, of deep pain, being some of the most important and meaningful moments and most defining moments of their life. So I invite you to consider that bad is the way we refer to something that we haven't had enough time to integrate yet. A mistake is only what we call something that we've done without having looked at the big picture. So what is a bad trip? Now, for the context of this video, a bad trip is going to be a trip that is difficult to integrate, that maybe doesn't make sense, that it was just painful, overwhelming, or perhaps a trip that left you in what feels like a worse position than when you went during medicine. How do we prevent this? Well, there was a point when I started drinking ayahuasca when every time that I went to drink the medicine, the shaman will pass me a cup and then I will drink it. And I was shaking. I was like literally shaking and afraid right before receiving it from the altar. And I was thinking, why am I such a masochist? Why am I doing this thing to myself? Of course, I knew how much my life had changed, but I felt that the process was so rough. And I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago that every ceremony, it would take me to hell. And as soon as I got to hell, I was praying, God, please save me. I was trying to come to the fire. I was trying to do all the tips that I shared in my channel that you should do if you're having an overwhelming experience. Without success, it just kept getting darker and darker and darker. And I was seeing very ugly things and things that I called evil or really dark energies. And I thought, oh my God, this place is not safe. The shaman is not doing his job. There's entities, there's parasites, there's all kinds of ghosts and demons. And it was pretty sad because nobody told me how to navigate these things. So what I realized is that what the medicine was trying to show me, and it took a lot of suffering before I softened enough, before I surrendered, and I was able to embrace that part of life. What the medicine was trying to show me was that which we call bad or evil is also an expression of life. If God is the creator, and there's just one creator, just one source of everything, that means that the light is also the source of darkness. And if you think about it, if there's no light, there's no darkness, there's just emptiness. So this life is the play of light and dark, right? The problem is that a lot of our suffering in life comes because there's a part of life that we resist. If you think you're a very strong person, maybe you judge and shame and dismiss people who are weak, or that you consider weaker and incapable. Maybe if you're very soft, maybe you reject people that are too blunt and arrogant and beat their chest and are maybe a little too loud and obnoxious. So who's right? Well, the idea here is not to understand who's right, but to understand that it is all life. And that if you go deep enough in your journey with the medicine, a big part, I will say the biggest outcome of drinking medicine is that you heal your fear. Fear of death, fear of life, fear of feeling. That's what keeps you depressed, anxious, disconnected, in poverty, in frustration, in disconnection from life. Fear. There's just two forces in life. There's love, an expansion, and fear, which is a contraction. And one of the elders used to tell me when I came to him and I told him, like, why should I keep drinking if I'm so afraid? I think I've drunk enough. I think my life is good. He looked at me and he said, if there is fear, we have to drink. Si hay miedo, hay que tomar. He meant to say, if we're afraid, we're sick. And I couldn't understand that. I thought, no, we're just masochists. But later I got it. Because I understood that there's no bad trip if I receive with open hands whatever is being given to me. This is the application of what Jesus said when he said, turn the other cheek. And it's very hard. It's that moment when you're in a relationship and your partner is being ugly and maybe is yelling, and you want to yell back, or you want to punish them, you want to treat them poorly, you want to belittle them with your words, and you take a deep breath and you understand that on the other side there's just an expression of life in pain. Doesn't mean you don't draw boundaries, doesn't mean you accept toxicity, but it means you don't resist it, you don't judge it, you don't shrink, you don't make yourself smaller or react to it, which means you're not controlled by it, you're not enslaved by that. So to prevent a bad trip, I could tell you tips and tricks of what herbs you use. You smell and you chill out a little bit, but that's not going to work. Not if you want to go deep enough, not if you really want to heal and change your life. What's going to really work for you is that you lose the root of the fear. Fear of feeling is all we are really trying to heal here. That's it. It's not that the thing we're afraid of is feeling our fear, feeling our shame, feeling our confusion, feeling our loneliness, feeling our despair, feeling our disconnection from ourselves, from life, from the Creator. Feeling that we are spiritual orphans and that we've been abandoned and that we're left to our own devices to try and figure it out in a life that seems hostile. That's all that we're really trying to do here, to heal the fear of feeling. And I'm going to invite you to consider that we're not only afraid of feeling fear, worry, sadness, anger, lust, desire. To the degree we fear those, we're also afraid of exploding with bliss, with love, with joy. Because our heart can only stretch as much as you let it stretch in both directions. And if we keep some part of us, some part of life at bay, we also keep the other side. Because life works in a perfect balance, in a perfect dance of opposites, positive and negative, masculine and feminine, light and dark. And if we want to feel more connected to life, how can we do that if we dismiss, reject half of it? If you're in a relationship or you want to be in one, it is going to be impossible for you to have a healthy, beautiful, safe relationship if a part of your partner is not welcomed by you. Or just think about it this way. Every time that you've come with your fear, with your jealousy, with your insecurity to your partner, assuming that you communicated it well and you didn't just attack them or project it, but every time that you came with an emotion and it was made wrong, inappropriate, and worthy of attention and worthy of love, you probably felt alone and disconnected. This is in fact the root of trauma. As children, we feel, we have tiny little bodies and such a huge heart. And our parents are just children in an adult body, still hurt, incapable of navigating their own emotions. They had such a hard time trying to be present for hours. How to make room for another's pain when I have not even started to digest my own. So whether it is a relationship, or whether it is that you're sitting in a deep spiritual process, or with a medicine, I want you to consider that good and evil, sacred and mundane or profane, is at the root of all of your suffering. And that if you allow yourself to be consumed by this moment, by the light, by the beauty, by the sunset when you watch it, as much as by your grief, when you witness the pain, the suffering, the famine, if you allow yourself and your heart to crack open into 1,000 pieces, and you don't hold it back, not for love, not for grief, you'll see that as you soften, you realize that you're far more than your thoughts. You're far more than your emotions. Far more than your body. That in spite of all the chaos that spins around you, you're at the center of it. The one witness. Untouchable. Unstainable. Imperturbable. The eternal peace and bliss of being. Not being good, not being bad, not being happy, not being sad, but just being with all of it. That's where we find the juice of life. And that's where we find freedom. This is me trying not to feel the irony of trying not to feel strongly as I share this with you. I hope that one day we can allow ourselves to receive all of life without judgment and understand in the process that there's nothing wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with anybody else or with any of it. I love you.